I hadn't planned to stay that late. The cafe was closing, chairs turned upside down on tables, espresso machine hissing like it was tired too. Yet she lingered by the window, fingers curled around a cup gone cold, staring at nothing in particular. Her hair caught the dim light, silver threads in the dark, and for a moment I forgot my own name. She glanced up, caught me looking. A flicker of something, not quite a smile, passed over her lips. "You're still here," she said quietly, like she wasn't sure if it was a question. "I guess I am." My voice sounded younger than it should have. She lowered her eyes, tracing the rim of her cup with a slow thumb. "You shouldn't be doing this," she murmured. "Doing what?" I asked. A pause. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood, smoothing the crease of her skirt. Her movement was practiced, graceful, but there was a small tremor in the hand that reached for her coat. I stepped closer before I thought about it. The scent of rain still clung to her hair, soft and clean, and it mixed with the faint bitterness of coffee. My sleeve brushed hers. She didn't move away. The barista switched off the lights over the counter. Shadows stretched across the floor. It felt as if we were alone in a place we shouldn't be, like two actors who'd stayed after the play. "I'll walk you out," I offered. Her lips parted as if to decline, but she just nodded. "All right." Outside, the street was slick with drizzle. Neon reflected in puddles like liquid glass. She hesitated under the awning, arms folded. I opened my umbrella, tilting it toward her. "You don't have to," she began. "Then let's risk it together," I said, not sure why those words came out. She blinked at me, eyes darker than the street. For a second, she didn't breathe. Then, slowly, she stepped under the umbrella. Her shoulder brushed mine, deliberate, maybe accidental, and I felt the warmth through my coat. We walked without speaking. Cars hissed past. Her hand, holding the umbrella shaft, slid down until it was next to mine. She didn't grip it, but our fingers hovered so close that the smallest movement would bridge them. I caught her glancing sideways, quick and nervous, like she was looking for an exit. "You're too young," she said finally, almost to herself. I laughed under my breath. "You don't even know how old I am." Her gaze dropped to the pavement. "Old enough to know better," she said. The wind shifted, blowing rain under the umbrella. She reached up to steady it, and her palm brushed the back of my hand. Not a full touch, just enough for my skin to register hers. Cool, smooth, electric. She withdrew immediately. "Sorry." I shook my head, swallowing words I couldn't find. At the corner, she stopped. A black sedan pulled up, headlights cutting across the wet street. She glanced at the car, then back at me, her expression unreadable. "Is that?" I started, but she interrupted. "Don't." Her voice was soft but sharp. The driver stepped out, opening the rear door. She stayed frozen under the umbrella, looking at me as though deciding something. Her mouth opened, then closed again. The rain fell harder, drumming on the umbrella. She took one step toward the car, then paused, eyes locked on mine. Her hand hovered near my arm, not touching, just close enough for heat. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "if you still want to." And then she was gone. The door shutting with a muted thud, taillights vanishing down the wet street, leaving me alone with the umbrella, rain slipping down my collar, and the echo of her last word hanging between us. The next evening she came alone again, sliding into the same corner booth as before. No car outside this time. The cafe was busier, but somehow she made the space feel quiet. She looked different without the coat, a soft sweater, sleeves pushed to her elbows, but her posture was the same, arms crossed like a shield. I sat across from her before thinking twice. "You came back?" I said. Her mouth quirked at the corner. "Apparently so." She stirred her tea, even though there was nothing in it. "I shouldn't have." I tried to smile. "Neither should I." She let the spoon clink against the cup and finally met my eyes. "You're persistent." "You left me standing in the rain," I said lightly, though the memory had gnawed at me all night. That earned a small laugh, low and brief. It sounded unused. Silence stretched between us until she asked, "Do you always talk to women like this?" "Like what?" "Like they matter." Her gaze flicked down, fingers tightening on the cup. I hesitated. "Only when they do." Something shifted in her expression, not quite softening, but less guarded. She looked out the window. "My husband and I separated 3 years ago. He's in another city now. Our daughter's in college. Most days I forget how to speak to anyone who isn't a colleague or a neighbor." I tried to keep my voice even. I live with 2 roommates. None of us can cook. We mostly argue about rent. She smiled faintly at that, but her eyes stayed sad. So you're just beginning, and I'm already halfway through. You see the problem? I didn't answer. My knee brushed hers under the table, a tiny, unplanned movement. She didn't pull back. The server brought fresh drinks. Steam curled between us, carrying the smell of mint and citrus. Her hand reached for the sugar, fingers trembling slightly. I covered the packet before she could, just enough for our hands to overlap. Her skin was cool, almost fragile. She drew in a sharp breath, but didn't move. For a heartbeat we stayed like that, her thumb grazing my knuckle, my pulse hammering in my wrist. Then she slid her hand away, palms flat on the table as if nothing had happened. We can't, she said softly. Why not? People will look. They'll think. She trailed off, staring at the steam rising from her cup. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Then don't tell them. Her breath brushed my cheek as she exhaled. You're too young to hide like this. I didn't answer. Instead, I reached for my coat. She did the same, and in the small movement our shoulders touched again. This time neither of us moved away. She turned her head slightly. Our faces were inches apart. A single curl of her hair had fallen forward. Without thinking, I lifted it back behind her ear. She froze, eyes wide, lips parted, not in protest, but in something unspoken. We sat there, suspended in that breath, the noise of the cafe fading until only the sound of her heartbeat against mine seemed real. The library was nearly empty, just the hum of the old radiator and the faint rustle of pages. She stood at the end of the history aisle, one hand sliding along spines of books. I'd spotted her the moment I walked in, though she didn't see me until I spoke. You're hiding in plain sight? I murmured. She turned, startled, then pressed a finger to her lips. Quiet. This is the one place no one knows me. I stepped closer between the shelves. No coffee shop tonight. They're starting to notice, she said softly. 2 nights in a row, same corner, same company. Her eyes darted past me. I followed her gaze. A man in a suit at the front desk, flipping through a newspaper. She looked back at me, almost pleading. We shouldn't, she whispered. Then why are you here? She didn't answer. Instead, she handed me a book, her fingers brushing mine, lingering a fraction too long. My skin burned where she touched. We moved deeper into the stacks, away from the desk. The lights flickered, leaving pockets of shadow. She reached for a high shelf, sweater riding up just enough to show a glimpse of skin. I caught myself staring, looked away too late. She noticed, but said nothing. You're not subtle, she murmured, half smiling. I'm trying. My voice cracked slightly. She stepped down from the stool, standing close enough for me to smell her perfume. Faint citrus, something warmer beneath. We both heard a phone buzz then, sharp in the silence. She dug into her bag, glancing at the screen. A name flashed, Laura, before she swiped it away. My daughter, she said quickly, then softer. She thinks I'm working late. I didn't know what to say. The weight of that single confession hung between us. She can't find out, she added. I know. My throat felt tight. We stood so close our breath mingled. She reached past me to slide the book back on the shelf, her shoulder brushing my chest. The air seemed to thicken. I can't stop thinking about, she began, then broke off, biting her lip. I took a step closer. Say it. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. No. A chair scraped at the far end of the room. We both jumped. The man at the desk stood, folding his newspaper. He walked toward the exit without glancing our way. Only when the door shut did she exhale, trembling slightly. You're shaking, I said quietly. It's the cold, she replied, but her voice betrayed her. I lifted a hand, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move. My thumb grazed her cheekbone. Her eyes fluttered shut, just for a second. We leaned in without thinking, the space between us narrowing until our foreheads almost touched, our breaths quick and uneven. Her hand found my sleeve, clutching lightly, as if to steady herself. We shouldn't, she whispered again, but this time she didn't pull back. The evening rain had turned into a downpour by the time I reached her building. She was already waiting in the lobby, arms folded, wet hair clinging to her temples. When she saw me, something flickered across her face. Relief, worry, maybe both. You shouldn't be here, she said, but she didn't move away from the elevator doors. You called, I reminded her. Her lips parted. I shouldn't have. But she pressed the button anyway, and when the elevator opened we stepped in together. The doors slid shut, sealing us into a tiny, humming box. Water dripped from our coats, pooling on the floor. The scent of rain and her perfume gled, warm and sharp. I wiped a droplet from her cheek with my thumb. She flinched, but didn't step back. "You're soaked," I murmured. "You came running." Her voice was barely audible over the cables. The elevator lurched upward. She gripped the railing behind her. "This is," she began, then stopped, eyes darting to mine. "Tell me," I said softly. Her shoulders sagged. "I can't keep pretending it's harmless. I can't keep wanting this." The words hung between us, louder than the elevator's groan. I moved closer, hand braced against the wall beside her head. "Then don't pretend." She looked up at me, eyes glossy. "You're just a boy. Then why do you look at me like that?" My voice was rougher than I meant. Her breath caught. She pressed a palm flat against my chest as if to push me back, but instead left it there, fingers curling slightly in the fabric of my shirt. The heat of her hand bled through, searing. "I hate myself for this," she whispered. "I don't." Her laugh was broken, half sobbing. "You don't understand the risk." "I understand you," I said. My other hand rose to tuck a wet strand of hair behind her ear. She leaned into the touch before she could stop herself. The elevator slowed, dinged. Neither of us moved. She whispered, "We can't." At the same moment I breathed. "Please." Her back hit the wall. My forehead almost brushed hers. Her eyes closed, lips parted, inches from mine. She trembled, but her fingers slid up my chest to my collar, clutching like she was drowning. A muffled sound from the hallway, someone walking past, made her stiffen. The doors began to open. "Stop," she hissed, eyes flying open. But she didn't let go of my shirt. Through the narrowing crack of the doors, I glimpsed a neighbor glancing at us, then looking away quickly. The doors slid shut again, trapping us once more in the quiet. She stared at me, breathing hard. "If we do this," she said, voice low, "we can't go back." I lowered my head until my mouth hovered at her ear. "Then, tell me to leave." She didn't. Her grip on me only tightened. The elevator jerked, lights flickered, then stopped between floors. The elevator jolted back to life with a shudder and a groan, rising the last few feet before the doors slid open. She stepped out first, her hands clenched at her sides, as if the walls themselves had burned her. I followed, the space between us full of everything we hadn't done. Her apartment door was only a few steps down the hallway. She reached for her keys, but her fingers shook so hard she dropped them. They clattered across the tile. I bent to pick them up, brushing her hand in the process. She flinched at the contact and drew in a quick breath. "Don't," she said, voice taut. "I'm just helping," I murmured. She snatched the keys and shoved them into the lock, but didn't turn it. Her shoulders rose and fell once, twice. "You don't know?" she whispered. "Then tell me." She turned halfway, eyes flashing with something raw. "Laura," she said. "My daughter. She's home." The words hit like cold water. "Here. She came back this afternoon. She heard my voicemail to you." Her voice broke. She pressed her palm to her forehead, leaning against the doorframe. "She thinks you're one of my students." "I'm not," I said automatically. "She doesn't know that." Her laugh was thin, jagged. "She thinks I'm losing my mind." A door opened down the hall. A young woman's voice called out, "Mom?" We both froze. She straightened, smoothing her hair with trembling hands. "Go," she mouthed. But instead of leaving, I stepped closer. "We can explain," I whispered. Her eyes filled. "Explain what?" "That I've been sneaking out to meet someone your age? That I'm not who she thinks I am." She took a step back, but the hallway was narrow. My hand brushed her arm as she passed, and she stopped, half turned toward me, half away. Her breath came fast. "You're ruining everything," she said, but her voice cracked on the word everything. "I don't want to ruin anything," I said. "I just want." The rest stuck in my throat. Her daughter's footsteps approached, quick and light. We were out of time. She grabbed my wrist suddenly, fingers biting into my skin. "Wait in the stairwell," she whispered fiercely. "Please." I stared at her. And then what? Her grip loosened, sliding down until our hands almost linked. "Then you come back," she said, almost inaudible. She turned the key in the lock, stepped inside, and shut the door just as her daughter rounded the corner. The hallway went silent again, except for the echo of her words. I stood there, heart hammering, the ghost of her touch still on my wrist. For the first time, leaving felt like stepping off a ledge. Then I turned and pushed open the stairwell door, knowing that when I came back, everything between us would either break apart or finally cross the line. I waited in the stairwell, counting the seconds by the sound of my own pulse. The echo of her voice, "Then you come back," kept repeating like a dare. On the landing above, a window rattled with the storm outside. The smell of rain drifted in, wet concrete and iron. The door finally opened. She slipped through, closing it quietly behind her. Her hair was damp again, cheeks flushed, breath uneven. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. "She's asleep," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse. "We don't have long." I started to speak, but she held up a hand. "No speeches." She stepped closer until the stairwell swallowed us both. Only the faint glow from the exit sign lit her face. "You keep showing up," she said softly. "You keep making me want to be reckless." "I'm here because you called," I murmured. Her laugh was a single breath. "Maybe I wanted you to." She took another step. Our shoulders touched, then our hips, until the narrow stairwell forced us together. The warmth of her body bled through my wet shirt. I could smell the citrus of her perfume again, dulled by rain. "I can't lose my daughter," she whispered. "I can't lose myself either." "You won't." My voice was low, unsteady. "But I don't want to be a secret you hate." Her hand found the railing beside me, knuckles brushing mine. "And if this ruins everything?" she asked. "Then it ruins everything," I said, "but at least it's real." She inhaled sharply. Our foreheads touched, her hair cool and damp against my temple. "You don't understand what you're asking." "Show me," I said. She closed her eyes. For a long moment we just stood there, breathing each other in. The metal tang of the stairwell, the storm outside, the soft sound of her heartbeat against my chest. Then she opened her eyes, and something in her had shifted. The guard was gone. "I tried to stop this," she whispered. "I tried to stop thinking about you." "You think I haven't?" My hand rose to the back of her neck, tentative, waiting. "Tell me to stop." But she didn't. Instead, she stepped into me, her forehead resting against my cheek, fingers gripping the lapel of my jacket. It wasn't a kiss yet, more like the moment before a fall. Her whole body trembled. "This isn't a mistake," she said finally, almost a sigh. "It's a choice." And just like that, everything tilted. The stairwell, the rain, the secrecy, all of it faded until there was only her, inches away, both of us balanced at the edge. She drew back enough to meet my eyes. "If we do this," she said, voice steady now, "we do it without shame." I nodded, my hand still at her neck. In the flicker of the exit light, we stood there, not hiding, not pretending, the decision hanging in the air like a held breath. The storm had passed by morning. The city smelled rinsed clean, like wet stone and fresh bread from the corner bakery. We sat on a park bench near the river, coffee cups balanced on the armrest between us. It was the first time we'd been outside together in daylight. No shadows or stairwells or whispered meetings. She wore no makeup, just a sweater, and her hair still a little damp from her shower. Her eyes looked lighter somehow, less guarded. When she laughed at something I said about the ducks on the water, it wasn't the careful laugh I'd heard before. It was soft and whole. "I can't believe we're doing this," she murmured. "We're just drinking coffee," I said, trying for a smile. "You know it's more than that." Her hand rested on her thigh, fingers tapping an uneven rhythm. Without thinking, I slid my hand over hers. She hesitated only a moment before curling her fingers through mine, weaving them together like she was testing the shape. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The river moved slowly. A train passed on the far bank. She squeezed my hand once. "Last night felt like crossing a bridge," she said. "I was terrified we'd fall off." "We didn't," I said quietly. She turned to face me fully. "I don't want to live in hiding. If this is going to work, it has to be honest. For me, for my daughter, for you." I nodded. "I don't want to be your secret." Her eyes shimmered. "Then we'll take it one day at a time. No lies. No shame." She smiled, a small, shy smile that made her look younger and older at the same time. "You're braver than I am." "I'm just stubborn," I said. She laughed again, then leaned in until her forehead rested against mine. Her hand came up to the back of my neck, thumb stroking the damp hair there. It wasn't urgent now. It was steady, grounding. I breathed in her scent, citrus, skin, a trace of rain, and felt my shoulders finally loosen. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I admitted. She tilted her head and kissed my forehead, lingering there. Good, she said softly. Let's be scared together. We sat like that for a while, hands clasped, the river and city moving around us. The age gap, the whispers, the stairwell, all of it still real, but no longer between us. For the first time it felt like a beginning instead of a secret. When we finally stood, she didn't let go of my hand. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like?